Morning, fellow Rotarians and invited guests. Our guest this morning, Bill Wynn from Goffstown today. Morning, Bill.
Morning, Bill. Morning, Bill.
All the way from Allentown, PA. The Allentown Morning.
Thank you, President Ed. Yes, it's been a pleasure for me to host Rick Santorum, and I would like all of you to hear what he has to say about sound fiscal policy, what's happening with the federal budget, the deficit, and the debt, as well as his ideas on Social Security. So with that, I would like to turn the platform over. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be here. As Claire mentioned, this is a very important time, and I've been traveling around the state, traveling around the country. I've been to 23 states in the last year because I felt this election was very, very important. And I thought it was important because big things were happening in Washington, D.C. Things that after I left in 2006 sort of shook me to the core. I'd gotten out of politics involuntarily in 2006, lost in that Democratic wave year. About half the state of New Hampshire is elected to something here in New Hampshire. It's an amazing participatory state with respect to politics. You know, that can be very pressing on time, and particularly in the House and Senate. And so I always say the people of Pennsylvania always gave me what I needed, not necessarily what I wanted. I won 2 House elections, 2 Senate elections. But the last election, at the age of 48, they retired me and sent me back to where it turned out I needed to be, which is to spend a lot more time with in very important years of my kid's life. And you know, I worked very, very hard in trying to balance the interest as a husband and father and being in the United States Senate. And as much as I didn't travel very much. I spent a lot of time. My family was there in Washington. I wanted to make sure that I spent every waking hour. I didn't run out and do dinners and receptions. I went home after the last votes. But even at that, just the schedule was just ridiculous and horrible. And so it gave me an opportunity to sort of reconnect, which was a very important thing, and was pretty content to continue to do that until these last 2 years. And I just saw things going on in Washington. I use the example of a frog in a pot. And when you put a frog in a pot of water on a stove and you turn the heat up very, very gradually, the frog will stay in the pot, and eventually it will boil to death. But if you turn the heat up very quickly and the water rises, temperature rises quickly, the frog will jump out of the pot. And I think what happened in the last 2 years is many of us who were candidly in the pot, allowing it to be gradually boiled, recognized that things were pretty darn hot in there and jumped out. And I think a lot of Americans, like me, decided in the last 2 years that we saw something fundamentally different happening to America. This was not just more of the same, but a difference in degree, and that things were sort of the basic foundation of our country was very much at stake. What I talk about at that basic foundation, what I refer to as American exceptionalism, is this basic concept, which actually Rotary is a very, very important part of. Rotary is, and I was corrected, I said I was a Rotarian, but your president corrected me to say that I am a Rotarian, just I owe a lot of back fees. But I got involved in politics 20 years ago and just didn't have time to be a husband, father, and full-time traveling between Washington and Pittsburgh, and so I retired from Rotary. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were telling me that that the left in America has been in just apoplectic, trying to figure out why America has been so resistant to what has happened in Europe, why they've been so resistant to socialism and Marxism, and why America has always been. They've always pushed back, even when there's been somewhat, there's been tides that have sort of tried to crest it in to make America look like France or Britain. Why is it always resisted? And it's Rotary. It's civic organizations. It's nonprofits organizations. It's the church. It's the family. It's faith. These are the institutions that make up this fabric of America that's different. But at the heart of that, how this all developed was this phrase that is the key to American exceptionalism, which is the phrase in our Declaration of Independence, which is we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. that phrase is a key phrase in understanding the American mystique. And if you, to understand that phrase, we know and we accept as a fact in America that God exists and that God gives every person rights. Now, you say, well, of course, that's what we all believe. Everybody, Republican, Democrat, we all believe that by and large. I mean, I'm sure there's some that don't, but most people in America believe that. So, why does that make us different? Well, in Europe, that wasn't true. Our founders came to this country from countries who believed that God gave the king or the queen rights. And that the king or the queen or the emperor then would, as in the current vernacular, spread the wealth around. Spread the rights to some people and give the responsibilities to others. Create a noble class and a peon class. Would decide who gets what and how they get it. That's never been America. And what people are concerned about, people say, well, why did the Tea Party rise up? Why is there so much angst in society? Because particularly with the passage of this health care bill, which I think is a linchpin piece of legislation in the history of our country, because of that, what people are seeing is a sort of a rebirth of a different monarchy. A monarchy of elites in Washington, D.C. who think that they are in fact now the provider of rights. When they go out and when you hear a government official say you have the right to health care, or you have the right to this, the right to that, and they're not natural rights, but created rights from the government. Run for your wallet, but also understand your freedoms are being taken from you. Because now they're saying, no, we are the ones who have the ability to create rights. And of course, if they can create rights, they can create obligations along with those rights. And they can also give some rights to people and deny them to others. You've given control away. Now, I know in this state, the live free or die state, you understand that very, very well. But that's why I think New Hampshire was one of the states that had one of the biggest election ties, because you understand this. And so at the heart of what this debate has been about in these last 2 years, and the reason that with 7 children, 6 of them are home, 1's in college, I'm out on the road and talking about this because we're at a tipping point. In my opinion, if we don't repeal Obamacare after the next election, win the presidency and repeal Obamacare and put this country back on a course toward limited government, reduce our federal deficit, and get this country back on solid footing, then we will go the way of France and what you're seeing in Greece and what you're seeing in Ireland and Portugal. It doesn't work. Nowhere has socialism worked. It doesn't work. It's a failure. Why? Because there's no such thing. There are people who are socialists, but nobody lives as a socialist. Nobody lives as an individual as a socialist. Nobody goes out and works hard and then gives all their money away to everybody and doesn't and feels like it's and wants to get, irrespective of how hard you work, share it. I remember reading Barack Obama's campaign book. David Plouffe wrote this book about the Obama campaign. I mean, he ran as good a capitalistic organization as you could possibly imagine to get elected to the presidency, and then comes in and tries to put policies in that are very different. So I'm out here and I'm trying to get engaged in making sure that we have a good debate and that people understand what's at stake and understand that there are our choices before us and that it's our generation's watch. America only survived. Our founders understood very, very clearly that the easy part of freedom was establishing it, writing in those first 10 amendments. Passing it was easy compared to the hard part, which is maintaining that freedom. And it's for every generation to have the fire in their belly to stay free and to resist the temptation of being taken care of by somebody. And that's where we are right now in America. That's why I think this next election is the most critical in the future, in the history of our country. And unless we resist this temptation, we will go the ways of others who are suffering because they have decided that they're no longer willing to fight and be free and to provide for themselves. I don't know about you, but not under my watch. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that doesn't happen when America entrusted me with this great gift of freedom. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for coming this morning. Remember, next Tuesday morning at 7:30.